For many people, a spiritual realm is madness. But sometimes, the real madness lies in those who don't believe. What we hear at the beginning are voices like an itch in the ear. A little boy is haunted by these voices, which appear as bloody shadows around him. His name is Zhang Yuanqing. No one wants you. Your father ran away. You're all alone, the voices say. They look at him with judgmental eyes, his source of shame. But suddenly, a fist comes, shining with light. A radiant boy smashes the shadow with a punch. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? He shouts. He destroys shadow after shadow, saying he won't let them bully his brother, bringing light to the darkness. It was his brotherly friend, Bing. He takes Yuanzi's hand and says that with him, he will always protect his back. The light that brightened his soul was alive, warm, and comforting. It was a brother's love. But when their hands parted, darkness returned like an early nightfall. Bing, brother, where are you going? Yuanzi cried, watching his brother disappear into the shadows. As he screamed, Bing faded away, colorless and lifeless. He only heard, "Of course, you can do this." Then, blink, Yuanzi woke up. He got up, sweaty and drowsy. It was all just a nightmare. Or was it? He grabbed his little pill bottles. Back in high school, he had contracted a strange illness that caused him to awaken old memories. Yuanzi gathered and analyzed external information without any control over his body, becoming unstable. And whenever it happened, he suffered from a strong headache. Since doctors couldn't find an answer, his mother brought him back from abroad. But recently, he felt the medicine working less and less. He went to the living room, where his cousin and aunt were having coffee. His cousin said his aunt would go shopping for clothes with him. When he picked up a package that had arrived in the mail, he noticed there was no name on it, and a chill ran down his spine. "This is bad," he said. And it really was bad, since his aunt smacked him on the head, saying he better not even think of going out without her. If he dared, she'd break his legs. Honestly, I wouldn't doubt that big lady striking a Bruce Lee pose. His cousin grabbed him and said it was time for him to go out and start dating. So, he needed to dress well. She told their grandma that she should be more worried about her nephew. Stepping away from that craziness, Yuanzi opened his package. Inside was a fancy black card, the kind from a high-end club, and a letter. It was from his brotherly friend, Lei Yibing, saying it was a gift, something that would be more useful in Yuanzi's hands than it had been in his. Since they hadn't spoken in a long time, Yuanzi picked up the phone and called sweetly. But the one who answered was Bing's father. Things got serious when the man said his son had disappeared. "Have you called the police?" Yuanzi asked in despair. The father said Bing had vanished from his dorm, and the police had already investigated. A roommate had returned to the room, and Bing was gone, as if he had evaporated into thin air like smoke. That left Yuanzi completely stunned. He told Bing's father to calm down, saying he'd talk to his grandfather and cousin, who both worked for the security agency. After hanging up, the protagonist thought about everything that had happened. The black card in his pocket seemed to have something special about it, but not knowing what to make of it all, he just cried and took his medicine. As the headache started again, the black card was something strange, so strange that Bing chose to send it to Yuanzi instead of the federal agency. Bing studied at a university in Jiangnan province, and his family had many connections within the system. Remembering this, Yuanzi's nose began to bleed as he took his pills. His aunt knocked on the door. An investigator from the agency had come to visit. What a coincidence, Yuanzi thought. Going to the living room, he overheard his aunt saying they were from the Kanyang district. "And check out the style of those guys." Yuanzi invited them in and introduced himself. The investigator asked if he knew Lei Yibing. Yuanzi said yes, and they entered. His cousin was a captain in Kanyang, so for these two to show up at his home, it was serious business. They sat down and told the story. The man with glasses, Wang Tai, told Yuanzi to answer only yes or no to his questions. Yuanzi replied that Bing had sent him a package with no name, but he lied, saying there was nothing inside. The investigator, looking like a suave Don Juan, said he wanted to check Yuanzi's room. "It's not an order, but it'd be better if you didn't refuse," he warned. "No problem, that way I can prove my innocence," Yuanzi said. The investigator sent his assistant, this goddess here, more glamorous than Barbie herself. She asked to see Yuanzi's phone and left him speechless. A bit embarrassed, he handed it over, saying he only used it for studying. The assistant told him not to worry, they were only looking for things related to Lei Bing. His aunt offered them tea, and the assistant said that Bing had been in his room, and before they knew it, he had vanished. Just like that, Yuanzi suspected the agent wasn't telling him everything, but the suave one warned him not to hide anything. After all, who knew? The next to disappear might be him. "Ah, thanks for the warning," Yuanzi replied. The goddess returned and said the inspection was finished, flashing a smile that could melt anyone's heart. Yuanzi thought, damn, She must have seen something in my room. The agent then wrapped things up and said goodbye, handing him his business card. Yuanzi told him to call if they found out anything about his friend. The old lady said she didn't understand anything. She thought Bing was fine. Yuanzi said he was going to lie down and asked her to tell his grandfather what happened once he returned. In the city, the investigator's van drove on. Look at the aura of that guy. He asked Guanya if she'd found anything. She said she found plenty, a ton of hidden folders called Viwo 50. She said he had a thing for older women in black stockings. Lots of study material, if you know what I mean. He was also in some groups dedicated to high school DxD. In short, he spent all day. Well, you get the idea. The agent was even embarrassed. Guanya said jokes are good for your health, but despite everything, she had found the letter Bing had written for him. The agent thought for a moment and told her to return the next day, assuming, of course, he hadn't disappeared too. At sunset, the warm light of the sky illuminated the protagonist's room, giving it that investigative vibe we love. Yuanzi suspected there was a third party involved in the case. Since Bing hadn't contacted that team, he wasn't sure if those three were friends or enemies. The safest strategy was to explain everything to his cousin. But there was one problem: the black card had simply vanished from his hand. How could he explain that? Then, he heard shouting outside his door, someone yelling his name. It was none other than his cousin, angrier than a crab in a bucket because he wasn't talking to her. As she kept yelling, he stood up, bracing for the storm. That's when the pain struck again. He trembled, enduring the agony while his cousin screamed outside. His aunt came, telling her daughter not to disturb her cousin's rest. Inside the room, Yuanzi looked out the window, and that's when he noticed something strange on his forehead. Looking closely, he saw it was a black mark, just like the one on the card. It was a progress bar. It looked like a black hole loading up, and it was almost at 100%. That's when he realized the black card hadn't disappeared. It had just turned into a mark on his forehead. Could this be the reason his friend Bing disappeared? Because he didn't want the card? That's what he wondered. And the progress bar on the black mark had already reached 99%. Yuanzi panicked. Then a message appeared, saying the character card had been reset, and his attributes appeared. The message warned him not to let his morality drop below 60. He might not have had a chance before, but now he did. Yuanzi saw that the systems were as real as in web novels. The interface gave him a pen to type his name. Damn it. I thought I'd at least get some speech skill, he said, frustrated. After writing, the system told him not to use his real name. He entered the name Yuanzhi Tianzuan, and the interface announced that the spiritual realm would open in moments. The countdown began, and when it ended, the realm had fully loaded. He found himself inside the tunnel of the night god Yulin. The mission rank was S. And what was the mission? Easy. Survive for 3 hours without carrying any items. His hand twitched when he realized he was standing in a space he had never seen before. A warning message suddenly flashed before his eyes. Do not enter the temple. Yuanzi looked at the scenery ahead and saw that he really was inside a tunnel. It was like a lunar dimension, with stones that shimmered like silver rain. He tried to calm himself down. He told himself this couldn't be the famous Yuling Tunnel of legend, because he had passed through it days earlier in Shanghai, and it didn't look like this at all. His body trembled uncontrollably as he tried to recall things. Yuanzi realized this was a spiritual realm, not the real world. Surviving for 3 hours seemed extremely dangerous, but since it's a mission, there must be a reward, he thought. Maybe he could become the god of the night, just like the interface said, but only if he survived this tunnel of death first. The tunnel's emergency lights began flashing, revealing the arrival of a dark figure. The creature's rotting skin came into view as it drew closer. It was none other than a zombie worker. It roared with lifeless eyes, and not just one, but a whole horde of them. Yuanzi shivered and screamed as he took off running. Only a fool would stay there. But then he noticed something strange. The zombies weren't chasing him. In fact, there were even more of them on the other side. They weren't following him. They were pointing towards something. Why aren't they attacking me? Yuanzi muttered. The direction they pointed to was a sanctuary, a dark place, a kind of fortress of evil. Now it made sense why the interface warned him not to enter there. Still, the protagonist ran. Looking back, he saw the horde closing in. Despite his fear, Yuanzi wanted to know why they hadn't attacked and why they had shown him the way. He didn't know whether to hide or follow their lead, but first, he had to get away from them. So he ran deep into the forest, an endless darkness. On his way, he noticed everything was eerily silent, not even the sound of insects. The air was sinister and cold, but in the distance, through the dark woods, he could see a cabin. When he arrived, he saw the place's decay, cobwebs everywhere, fallen lanterns, clearly abandoned. The front gate was in the worst shape of all. Wait, it's a temple, he said. The warning had told him not to enter, but he was already outside the tunnel, standing before it. "Don't tell me those zombie miners want to come in here," Unzi muttered. There was only one path left, and it wasn't a good one: explore the temple and survive for 3 hours. If he went in, he'd die. If he went back, he'd die. The classic catch-22. One part of him said go, the other said turn back. Even so, he decided to take the risk. As he stepped into the courtyard, he noticed the lights were on. Something was moving along the sides. I'm hearing things. Is it a ghost? He wondered, but when he started seeing footprints on the floor, he bolted like someone with a stomach ache. The footsteps followed behind him, and the panicked Unzi burst through the temple doors like a cop who kicks first and asks later. He tumbled to the ground, and when he looked back, the footsteps were gone. "Phew, I must be safe now," he said. Whether he was or not, we'll see. Because when he turned around, there was a pagan altar radiating a bloody, sinister aura. The statues of deities stared at him with eerie smiles, and the goddess in the center seemed to judge him with her third eye. It might have been terrifying, but it was undeniably beautiful. Unzi stared at the statue of the goddess, wondering what she was holding. Looking closer, he found an ancient tablet from the Ming dynasty, 600 years old. The temple was clearly abandoned, so he wondered, then who's been changing the candles? Examining the candles and the rest of the place, he questioned whether this world was based on an urban legend or if it had always existed. Either way, the place was far too dangerous. Unzi went looking for more clues, if he wanted to survive. Finding a corpse, he began searching it. There was something hidden in its pocket, a handwritten message about the temple's history. In the past, people had begged their master for help because they were being tormented by demons. The master told them to preserve their faith's cultivation and ordered them to hide this from others, fearing it would threaten the temple's stability. But things worsened, and the master started disappearing for long hours every day. After a few days, 3 more people vanished. One disciple confronted the master, and he told her to come to his room at sunset, then she would understand everything. The woman wrote that she had never longed for nightfall so much as that day, while more and more people disappeared. Unzi was disappointed that the story ended there. The reasons for the temple's fall were unknown, but if he found the source, he might complete the second task. To explore further, though, he'd have to go back outside. He left, recalling that in the legend of Yuling Tunnel, one worker had survived. "If I follow his steps, maybe I'll survive too," Unzi said. When he opened the door, no one was there. He could feel chills crawling down his spine, the presence of something paranormal outside. But staying inside didn't feel like the better option either. So he moved on, passing through the courtyards and gardens. Instead of flowers, there were eerie skeletons in a greenish fog that smelled like death. As he approached one of them, he noticed the bones were intact, yet the person had died in a horrific way. Then, out of nowhere, came screams for help, a horrifying voice from the temple, growing more desperate. "Damn it, stop yelling for help. The one who needs help here is me," Unzi shouted, half crazy. Still, the last spark of courage inside him flared up. He told himself he'd use it and make his friend Lei Bing proud. Approaching the skeleton, he saw that only this one and the one in the main hall had broken war blades. There was also something in the pocket, a talisman and a bronze mirror. The interface message said that an item had been discovered, a corpse suppression talisman crafted by a powerful night wanderer. Since it could only be used once, Unzi realized how valuable these items were. Opening the book, he found the continuation of the temple's story. The woman wrote that it had been 2 years since she joined the Sandow Mountain Temple. She had learned to read and write, and the master had accepted her as a disciple. She learned the soul-nurturing technique from the Gui sect, the first step to becoming a shadow wanderer. Prince Yan had rebelled, and the flames of war were spreading everywhere. The master had no choice but to descend the mountain to stop the conflict, not knowing that it would mark the beginning of another calamity. Unzi said it sounded like the story of the Jingnan Crusade, but this whole shadow wanderer thing seemed like nonsense. It couldn't have really happened. The diary continued. The woman opened the door one day, and before she knew it, she was facing the zombified corpse of one of the missing disciples. The corpse stared at her with blood-filled eyes and said, "Don't trust the master." But Unzi had reached the end. He got chills all over, but it was time to look into the mirror. And he really shouldn't have, because when he did, he saw the shadow of death right behind him. "Holy shit," Unzi screamed. Amit Ba, hallelujah. He started praying to every god he could think of and used the talisman. When he looked to see if the prayer had worked, only 2 skeletons from Corpse Bride were standing there, all buddy-buddy. "Welcome aboard, pal," one of them said. He just ran inside the temple and stood watching. Outside, A pair of red shoes was tapping as if dancing a tango. Not even Wednesday's mansion was this haunted. A Ming Dynasty temple and a pair of Western shoes? Can it get any weirder? He said. The pair of shoes seemed to notice his presence. The boy hid and huffed nervously. He looked into the mirror, wondering if there was still any salvation for him. Crazy Unz wasted no time and ran back to the main hall with the wicked spirit on his back. He opened the door and jumped inside, making the apparition vanish. Panting, he thanked his luck that this was still the safest place despite everything. The pain in his shoulder was finally fading. The protagonist was grateful that the ghosts hadn't all attacked him at once. Then he shut the doors. Classic horror game rule. The interface popped up, saying he had completed one of the main missions. He survived for 3 hours and earned 36 points of rest. With that, he started to pixelate out of that dimension. In seconds, he was back in his room. And in seconds too, he collapsed onto his bed, grateful for the air he breathed. With that, the corpse suppression talisman had vanished. He also noticed that whenever he thought about recovering an item, the interface would show it on the screen. Another thing was that his level was 0. Should I still become a shadow wanderer? He wondered. Unz decided to tell everything to his cousin but remembered the agent's warnings to keep them updated. So he decided to stay silent, fearing they would ridicule every word he said. However, the investigator's warning was that he could be the next to disappear, so he took it as a green light. Then Unz called Investigator Lee, the handsome guy. Lee simply congratulated him for becoming a dark wanderer like him and his friends. If you learn more about this, come to me, but know that you will follow rules, Agent Lee said. Unz would have to join them and not use his abilities irresponsibly. For the good of the people, I accept, Unz said. So be it. It was settled. Master Lee scheduled the meeting for 8 in the morning and told Unz to cool down. Yeah, he just replied, all right, fine. The night passed, and the day came bright and beautiful. At least the day was, unlike Unz, who looked like an overworked streamer on a weekend. He hadn't slept all night, haunted by the purple ghost. His cousin even said he probably overdid it with with certain things guys his age usually do. And for some reason, she said she was going to check his trash. Yes, you heard that right. Unz just sat next to his grandfather. He asked what had happened at the Yuling Tunnel in the past. Even the head of the investigation agency had gone to inspect the tragedy. His grandmother said that the worker found back then had disappeared again. Unz grew uneasy since it seemed that this person had entered the spiritual realm again and never returned. While brushing his teeth, Unz said that relying on the authorities was his best chance to survive the next mission. Then he went out in search of the agents. No time to eat, the boy said. As he stepped outside, a limousine was waiting. He got in, and Master Lee was already there. Want something to drink? The handsome man asked. Yeah, pass me a Coke, Unz said. Unfortunately, there were only grown-up drinks available. With a martini in hand, Master Lee said he was taking Unz to sign his papers and give him basic training. Let me introduce myself, he said. Captain Lee, level 3 wanderer of the 5 Elements Alliance. Nice to meet you, colleague. From now on, feel the aura of this man. On the way, Lee explained that the spiritual realm was a supernatural force that neither they nor science could explain. Only the chosen ones could enter it. About the black card, only those who possessed it could access the realm. They didn't understand how it worked either. You could stumble upon one in the middle of the street or maybe through an internet link. Completing missions was just the beginning. More and more missions would come later, making him stronger. Lee, for example, entered sometimes only once every 3 months, but there was always the risk of dying. That's the price you pay if you want to become a dark wanderer, Master Lee said. It's like a dungeon game, Unz said. He caught on quickly. Master Lee explained that solo dungeons were the most dangerous. Group ones were safer. Solo missions were harder because they adjusted to the participants' level. It was like having a killer chase you through a forest. Unz asked if his friend Bing had entered the realm, but unfortunately, Master Lee said the agency had declared him dead in the spiritual realm. It was a shock to the protagonist, but Master Lee added that sessions in the realm could last up to 2 days, and Bing had been missing for 4. And what about the other stages of the realm? The boy asked angrily. Lee said he wasn't sure. The realm was huge. It might be hard to accept, but Unz said the best thing to do was join the organization since he could only enter the transcendent stage of the realm. Before they continued, Master Lee asked about his moral values. Unz replied that they were at 60 points. That's the biggest trick of all, Lee said. If it dropped below 60, a mission would be issued for all other agents to eliminate him. So I can't do anything bad for the rest of my life? You ask. He was shocked that he couldn't do anything naughty anymore. 5 against 1? Forget it. He cursed that infamous day. Master Lee burst out laughing and explained that he'd only lose points for doing really bad things. Stealing would only cost 1 point, and killing was the worst, -10. So he could relax. Web sex and hentai were allowed. Just be a good person, okay? Master Lee said. After some good meditation, Yuanzi said he'd help more elderly ladies cross the street. After that, they arrived at the agency. Yuanzi asked if helping certain women by sending them money counted as a lack of morality. Lee said he should just do good deeds. It wasn't that complicated. Donations and charity were the fastest ways to earn points. Now, Master Lee explained about the agency. The one they were part of was the Five Elements Alliance. It was divided into 5 factions: the 100 Flowers Society, the White Tiger Corps, the Scarlet Fire Gang, the Palace of the Water God, and the Central Court. Each represented a class: Wood Demon, Sentinel, Fire Master, Water Spirit, and Earth Vampire. There were more alliances, but Master Lee said he'd leave that for later. Each class had its own habits, and they got along, more or less. Well was a strong word, as Master Lee described their differences. The Wood Demons overprotected animals, the Central Court held supreme authority, the Water God Palace cultivated bacteria, and so on. It's absurd, he said, with the fury of a dragon. But the Sentinels of the Tiger Corps are perfect, he said with a smile. Each faction had its own value. Some tamed beasts or performed summoning rituals. Others were fierce in battle. Each had their unique skills. Ah, so you're like those cheap sentinels from a MOBA game, right? Yuanzi joked, but Master Lee lit up in annoyance. Kid, if I were from the Fire Gang, I'd have already smashed your head in, he said. Moving on, he explained that a wanderer of the Sentinel class gained more abilities after passing the transcendent stage of the realm. But there were stronger classes, known as the Orthodox classes. Yuanzi asked him to explain the class of the Night God. Master Lee said they possessed many abilities, from explosive power and assassination to spirit control. But Night Gods were extremely rare. The few that existed were recruited by the Tai retinue. But getting to the point, Master Lee asked what Yuanzi's class was. Of course, he couldn't resist saying he was a Night God, right? Agent Lee paused for a moment, as if he hadn't heard correctly. You're a Dark Wanderer, he asked, nearly having a fit. At least he let Yuanzi explain and then hugged him, thankful that he had chosen to become a wanderer. Master Lee said a Night Wanderer was so rare that other gangs would kill each other for one. He told the story of a woman who did immoral things with a Dark Wanderer just to lure him to another gang. You can imagine what went through the protagonist's mind. Naughty boy. Master Lee asked for Yuanzi's ID name, and he said it was Celestial Primordial Lord. Judging by his face, Lee probably thought it was tacky. He told him the salary was 20,000 a month, plus performance bonuses. Yes, sir, boss, Yuanzi said. They walked through the employee area, or better said, female employees. All personal assistants for the Wanderers were women. Stunks. After that, they went to Lee's office. And look who showed up. Guanya. Need my help? She asked. Look at the protagonist's face. Lee handed Yuanzi's contract to her. The gorgeous woman immediately made a teasing comment, and Lee said she was always like that. She sat beside Yuanzi and said, I'm sure you're here because you want to learn more, right, student? Let's just say Yuanzi wanted to study a bit of anatomy, practical lessons, if possible. Chief Lee left, and Guanya leaned closer, asking for his ID card. She said he should have received some basic training. She also told him a new card would arrive soon, already with built-in credit. Oh yeah? And why's that? He asked. The reason was that he had used his real name, which was forbidden. Guanya explained that there were 2 categories in the spiritual realm: the orthodox and the profane paths. Those who walked the dark paths hunted the orthodox ones with obsession, almost personally. So using your real name in that realm was like signing your own death warrant. So even Guanya wasn't her real name, because in this world, she said, they're the hunters, and the others are the prey. Wow, you must be quite the huntress, Yuanzi said. The beauty threw him a seductive smile that could melt ice cream and asked how many girlfriends he had since he was so cute. I'm single, he replied. Guanya was shocked and offered to buy him an online waifu. When Yuanzi said he preferred something more in person, Guanya burst out laughing. He told her he liked her, and she got serious. He swore to her that he was single. Anyway, getting serious, she said he would be the 6th member of their squad. There were 10 squads in that district. Yuanzi would stay permanently since the chief himself had recruited him. He would be part of the White Tiger Guard. Don't worry, I'll stay by your side, he said confidently. Guanya then checked his form. Everything looked fine until, wait, you're a Dark Wanderer, she shouted in shock. That's right, sweetheart, I am, Yuanzi replied with a grin. Now she understood why her boss had been walking around as if floating on clouds. That's why she warned Yuanzi, you'd better not go around with women from other factions, or you'll be in big trouble with me. Yes, I belong to you, he said. Back to more serious matters. She noticed he was still level 0. And the worst, or best, part was that his first quest had been in the Yuling Tunnel. Your first quest was in the Yuling Tunnel? She asked in shock. Yeah, That's right, I was going to ask about that, he said. Then Agent Wang Tai appeared. Guanya left, annoyed at Yuanzi's luck, and the guy with glasses called him into his office. From their reaction, Yuanzi deduced the Yuling tunnel must really be dangerous. No wonder he was the lucky one this time. Wang Tai told him to sit down and learn about other quests, as they were a bit different from regular dungeons. There were many missions: surviving wandering ghosts, mapping a reservoir, and even spending a wedding night with a ghost bride. I wonder how that would go. Anyway, some tasks were easy, others not so much. When he got to the Yuling tunnel, Yuanzi realized that basically no one survived it, and he was the first, so maybe he really was lucky. Well, even if he didn't think so, back in his office, Master Li said he was lucky, a dark wanderer appearing at the right time. He had reported it to his superior, the Centurion, who congratulated him. He could already see a bright future for the White Tiger Guard. He was interrupted by Guanya, who literally burst through the door. "Boss, bad news," she shouted. His first quest was in the Yuling tunnel, she added. Master Li nearly exploded. His head boiled, and anger made him sweat. "You idiot, what have you done?" he yelled as he stormed out. Yeah, things had really gone south. When he got there, he saw how down the boy looked. "Boss, do I still have a chance to make it out alive?" he asked. Master Li said that the Yuling tunnel was the toughest dungeon in the spiritual realm, and since it was a solo dungeon, he was on his own. What could help him were data and strategies, so he ordered the boy to go home and rest. Guanya escorted him to the car. He promised he'd end up becoming her ghost, and she replied, "Relax, I'm not spending my life waiting for you." Yeah, that one hurt. F in the comments for the soldier. As he got in, she gave him a comforting touch, saying that Master Li would do everything he could to help him. He said goodbye with that expression. During her shift, Guanya was taking notes about Yuanzi, including the fact that he was highly lustful and easily seduced. By the way, she asked Wang Tai if there was any chance Yuanzi could make it out unscathed. Wang said that even with the details about the Yuling tunnel, it was still very difficult, but since it was an S-rank mission, there was still a chance. Guanya thought it wouldn't help much. Items could only be obtained in two ways: by searching the spiritual realm or by finding someone who had them and killing them to get them. It would be hard, though, since if someone died in the spiritual realm, the realm itself would reclaim the items. Wang suggested that the boy had the worst luck imaginable. In his office, Master Li was talking with Centurion Fu, his leader, about what to do. They concluded that you don't abandon a comrade. When Yuanzi got home, his aunt told him his cousin was there. He reassured the worried old lady that he knew. Then he went to his cousin, Xiao Yuanji. "Grandma said you were looking for me," he said, mentioning that he'd heard about Lei Yibing, his friend. The cousin worked in an investigation agency. Since it wasn't a normal case, Yuanji said he wouldn't be able to help much. Their cousin then arrived, smiling, holding an anti-wrinkle cream. Yuanji said he didn't need that at all, but his grandmother clearly thought otherwise, since he was 30 but looked 40. He told the old woman to stop nagging because he had work to do. He was working on a missing person case. "What happened?" Yuanzi asked. His cousin said 2 people had disappeared in the Yuling tunnel. They went in and vanished. That was all. "Every year, people disappear there," said the grandmother and the cousin. Little did they know the place was haunted. Yuanzi wondered if those who vanished could survive 3 hours like he did. In the capital, an old man was relaxing in his garden. His servant appeared, saying that Fu Qingyang had sent a message. It was about Master Li, who sought his advice. The old man said that no one would ever manage to clear that tunnel and told him to give whatever data was needed. One important thing, he said, was that the Yuling tunnel's difficulty kept increasing. "Want my advice? Abandon that boy. He's doomed," said the old man. An S-rank mission was already hard enough, but the Yuling tunnel was hell itself. They had sent men who trained for months, and even then, when they arrived there, they got wrecked. The disaster was so bad they barely advanced 2 stages. In other words, when our protagonist steps there again, he's in serious trouble. The old man then ordered his butler to summon all the dark errant knights in the capital. He had a major announcement to make. Yuanzi tried to rest but couldn't because of his cousin, who was playing a horror game. "I need to learn the boss's patterns. Horror games aren't easy," she said. Yuanzi thought again about the spiritual world. Could it be like a video game, one that followed rules and patterns? He got a call from Guanya, asking him to check his email because Master Li had sent him data about the Yuling tunnel. He checked it and said, "Thanks. When I finish the mission, dinner's on me." And in her bed, that gorgeous woman simply said, "I'll be waiting for that dinner." Little by little, the soldier was winning the battle. She lay down, wishing for his victory. What a prize. Finally, Yuanzi began studying the files. he found someone who had taken the same mission as his, who had gone to the Lady Sandow Temple. Yuanzi wondered if that woman really existed in the past or if the spiritual realm had created her. Maybe that evil spirit was a vengeful soul condemned to wander forever. The safest place was inside the hall, with the candles lit. The candlelight banished fear from anyone's heart. Staying there was safe, but it was a double-edged sword, for it forced the knight to move forward. That much he already knew. But the real problem lay in the East Wing, the dancing shoes that invited the knight to a dance of death. There were many obstacles along the way. How could anyone possibly clear the trial? Already frustrated, he shut down his PC and began reviewing everything. If I do this, or that, or go that way, Yuanzi thought. The corpses seemed to have been trampled to death by the shoes, and he lost it. It was too much to take in. Who could blame him? He was practically doomed to die anyway. But speaking of more interesting things, Guanya was relaxing in that hot bath. He called her. Already finished reading? She asked. He said yes, but that he didn't understand what a rule type item was. She explained there were 3 categories of items: cost type and rule type. The third she didn't know because her level was too low. To get rule type items, the trick was to identify the pattern and break the rules. The dancing shoes were a good example. Also, he couldn't take items into the realm, only his clothes, and that was already plenty. She wished him good luck, and before hanging up, she said with that dangerously charming smile, "Today's a lucky day for Scorpios." Finally, on D-Day, there were only 5 minutes left before Yuanzi returned to the Yuling tunnel. He prepared himself and swallowed a few pills. His strategy was to try to fool the spiritual realm by hiding them in his mouth. The interface appeared, and he was sent without ceremony to the haunted dimension. He had escaped once by pure luck, but would lightning strike twice in the same place? That's what we were about to find out. Boom! He teleported inside a sanctuary. Then he spat out the pills. It seemed to have worked. They were ecstasy pills he intended to use against the dancing shoes apparition. Yuanzi thought the best strategy was to treat the spiritual realm like a video game. When he touched a candle, a message appeared, explaining it was Lady Sandow's candle. That's it, just like a game. Touch it and you get the info, he said. He decided to stay there for now. Even with aces up his sleeve, like the pills, he didn't want to go outside, but he decided to take a peek. It was no use just waiting. Sooner or later, things would get worse. As the poet said, there's no point avoiding the inevitable. He walked patiently and reached the main courtyard of the sanctuary. A greenish mist with a stench of death hovered everywhere. It was cold and terrifying. And there, in the middle, stood the legendary banyan tree, symbol to many, revered by most. He remembered the report that said it was dangerous, but from here it looked like nothing more than a giant tree. A bit ahead, he came across a well, just like the one from the ring. Yuanzi took a look and backed away, only to step on a bone. Another corpse lay at his feet, but skeletons didn't scare him anymore, so it was fine. It was a woman's skeleton, her head twisted backward. Who could have done this? He wondered. While examining the woman's remains, a bloody voice whispered his name. Yuanzi stood up, pulling a bronze mirror from his coat, putting on a grim face. The mirror reflected the image of something forming out of the pestilent shadow, and that shadow took shape as a ghostly girl. "Zhang Yuanqing, come here, my dear," the ghostly girl said. "Go screw yourself, you crazy bitch." Yuanzi yelled, terrified, because, as we all know, for all his virginity, this protagonist is a massive coward. "Zhang Yuanqing, Zhang Yuanqing, Zhang Yuanqing, come here, my dear." The ghost kept screaming his name like a lunatic. Yuanzi ran for his life, his heart in his throat, legs giving out as he stumbled into the back courtyard. He'd ended up in the same place mentioned in the reports, and when he looked, no ghost. I just want to go home," he groaned, already regretting everything. When he pushed open the door of a room, an evil aura seeped through the cracks. Yuanzi jumped back, took a breath, and took cover. There was nothing inside but an old storage room. On the table was a bowl, and Yuanzi smiled, remembering people said that children's urine warded off spirits. "Even though I've never dated anyone, I don't think I count as a kid anymore," he muttered. He set the bowl down and went to the window, recalling an old saying. Then he peed on a cloth, soaking it completely. Exploring the sanctuary further, Yuanzi found an armory. It had everything, from halberds to katanas. He also found several corpses, more mummified than skeletal. Thinking for a moment, he noticed the bodies had no fatal wounds or crushed bones. On one shoulder were 2 puncture marks, as if made by fangs. Did something suck his blood? He wondered. Feeling someone behind him, he spun around, grabbing a sword and shouting that someone was in the next room. But when he got there, he only found more dried corpses, and one held a golden object. It was a Buddhist vajra, a ritual artifact. Unz guessed it was the same vajra held by the goddess's statue, but the surprises weren't over. From a coffin nearby, a rotting hand pushed open the lid. The dead awakened. Unz froze. The coffin lid fell to the ground, revealing its occupant who refused to accept death. On the other hand, Unz decided it was time to get back to the hall, but he thought too long. His blue eyes once again witnessed the cause of the chills down his spine. The wandering ghost rushed toward him with a chilling whisper and leapt onto his back, giving him no peace. Unz just bolted, not knowing what else to do. But this zombie was different. Its red eyes seemed to transcend death itself. "I want to go home, Mom, Dad," the protagonist was crying as the spirit cursed his life. The crash of a door bursting open echoed through the courtyard. Unz looked back and saw more undead. It wasn't High School of the Dead, but there were plenty of zombies to spare. Still with the ghost clinging to his back, he faced the zombie. Believe it or not, the creature took a runner's stance and sprinted toward Unz. "What part of this thing is rotten?" he said as he ran, soon surrounded by zombies. With no options left, the protagonist attacked. Hurling his spear, it hit square in the chest. Unz ran forward and drove the weapon even deeper into the creature. At that moment, Unz noticed that this man had died with his heart ripped out. This zombie was the same person he'd read about earlier. Its roar shattered the spear but opened a window for Unz to strike with his sword. He moved behind the creature and slashed down with all his strength. A shock ran through his hands. The zombie's body was like iron. The creature lunged, striking Unz hard. The blow was so powerful that he had no choice. "Suppression talisman," he shouted. The golden talisman burst to life in his hand, repelling the zombie instantly and forcing it back. The vengeful spirit on his shoulder was draining his energy, and now all that was missing was the well girl's appearance. Unz brandished the amulet, keeping the monster away as he ran back to the main hall. Once there, the spirit gradually evaporated, leaving the protagonist safe, but completely exhausted. His arm was slashed, and as if that wasn't enough, the zombie's claws were poisonous. Still, he didn't feel as scared anymore. "Ah, it's the candle giving me courage," he said. Sitting down, he thought of Plan B, the dancing shoes. There was a chance he could overcome them, but against the zombies, he lacked the skill to run up and stick a talisman on their foreheads, even with the candle filling him with courage. But it was time to act. Complaining was for the weak. Unz took his ecstasy pills, feeling oddly calm despite being poisoned. He stepped out onto the temple terrace and called out, "Come on, red shoes." In an instant, the sound of clicking heels echoed. The shoes came dancing toward him as if performing a bloody tango. Tap tap, they stopped behind the protagonist, blocking the path back to the hall. "Cutting off my escape route, huh?" Unz said. "So then, shall we dance?" One step forward, came a sweet feminine voice from the shoes. Praying for his father's blessing, Unz focuses and creates a spectral version of himself for the greatest Just Dance battle in history. And the show begins. The shoes start tap dancing, performing a choreography worthy of a French cabaret. Elegance mixed with macabre bizarreness, ending with a powerful stomp on the floor. "Your turn," the sweet voice says. With his hyper-focus fully activated, Unz carefully observes the shoe's moves. He knows exactly what to do. And he begins. Fingers crossed, shoulder tilted, the charisma of the king of pop, easily a choreography worthy of BTS. He finishes with a salute to melt the audience's hearts. It cost him more than his integrity. Some things in life demand that we give even our blood. "Your dancing skills are still as horrible as ever," the shoes say before vanishing, evaporating like boiling blood. And since every curse has a blessing, Unz is rewarded. He earns the shoes' admiration. But since his dancing was terrible, they will only appreciate him for half an hour. With his stamina drained, Unz swallows some pills to regain his energy. "Phew, I survived," he says, panting. The shoes are now his allies, ready to track or hunt. Their former owner was a lady from the Western Kingdom, an extremely talented dancer, but her wicked stepmother envied her and imprisoned her in a tall tower. The lady danced night after night under the cold, starry moonlight until she died. Her shoes inherited her will to dance, destined to move forever. The interface shows how to use the shoes. Unz can command them to hunt a target until it dies, or he can wear them himself to gain agility and evasion. The only problem, if he keeps them on for more than 5 minutes, they'll fuse to his feet, and the only way to remove them would be cutting them off. But just the fact that they could pursue a target endlessly was worth it to it. Too bad they would only last for half an hour. "Ah, that's fine. Half an hour is enough," he says. He puts on the shoes. They fit perfectly. Back in the hall, everything is in place. Where's the zombie? Unz wonders. The ninja zombie is right behind him, waiting for the perfect moment. As he thinks, the monster jumps onto his back, and is already on him when Unz turns around. However, the shoes grant him the agility he needs. and he dodges just in time, landing with style. The zombie doesn't give up and charges in a zigzag, but the shoes keep their promise. Unzi's evasive movements are flawless, even graceful, like a ballerina's, though he nearly loses his ability to have children in the process. And since dodging alone doesn't win fights, Unzi goes on the offensive, landing a fierce flying kick on the zombie. The monster staggers, and Unzi seizes the moment to use his talisman. Just as planned, he places the seal on the creature's forehead. It's like turning off a car's ignition. The monster collapses instantly. Despite the pain in his lower parts, the shoes undeniably helped. In truth, they did all the work. The next target on his list, the well girl. But first, Unzi investigates the Buddhist Vidra. The interface reveals it's a legendary weapon, the demon-slaying Vidra. It was used to banishing creatures from the shadows. It also has a special ability. When blood is offered to it, the user gains the power of the sun god, at the cost of their life. A steep price to pay. Unzi deduces that the last user must have tried to use it on a zombie, but the shoes broke his arm, and he was annihilated. Now equipped with a spiritual weapon and with the wandering spirit about to return, Unzi takes the chance to visit the well. But there's only old water inside. Where is she? I clearly saw her coming out of here, he says. Just when he had a gift prepared for her, Unzi decides to return to the main hall. There, he feels the poison spreading. Looking at the statue of the goddess, he wonders what he's missing. He explored every wing of the sanctuary and found nothing else, except for the main hall. Obviously, the Vidra he found belonged in the goddess statue's hand. He climbs up and places it there. It fits perfectly. When he descends, a secret passage opens at the statue's base. Unzi retrieves his demon-slaying Vidra. Ahead lies a cavern he believes to be the mountain's core. To see inside, he could use the Vidra's sun god power to light the way. But there's a catch. It requires blood. Damn it. I have no choice, he says, stabbing the dagger into his leg. The blood instantly activates the Vidra's spiritual power. His eyes flare with a golden glow, like a true god. It's not the Sharingan, but he gains the ability to see through darkness. And it doesn't stop there. The poison's effects vanish completely. Only the pain in his leg remains, a reminder that nothing in life comes for free. Finally, he sets off, his eyes shining like the sun. As he walks through the corridors, he notices the tunnels were carved, not natural. From a red portal ahead, a voice calls for help, crying out in agony. Crossing through, he finds a grotesque black tree. A bloody, dreadful mist envelopes it, and twisted heads cry out in terror. Save me! Help me! The fused bodies wail in great pain and despair. Their tears fall, mixed with infernal sorrow. Screaming in agony, they are pulled into the tree. Then, an eerie voice says Unzi is the first human to appear there in years. After that, all faces become embedded in the tree. Who are you? The protagonist asks. Me? I'm just a tree, replies the macabre tree. Were you the one who killed the temple disciples? Unzi asks. It was the goddess of the Three Paths Mountain, says the tree, the same goddess from the sanctuary. Unzi asks why such a goddess would kill her own disciples. The tree explains that the goddess fell into immorality and demonic corruption when the Dharma began to decline. She sealed herself in a stone coffin and used the banyan tree to absorb being energy from souls, to preserve her flesh. Having once been a shadow wanderer, she possessed the power to devour souls to strengthen herself. The banyan tree absorbed too many souls and inherited human emotions. It's me. I am the banyan tree, says the tree of punishment. Ah, many people died here. I waited so long for someone strong enough to end her. The tree continues, revealing a blood-colored coffin where the goddess lies. Unzi finds himself caught between two choices. Open the coffin, stab her heart with the dagger, and it will all end, the tree says. It explains that half of the goddess's yang soul resides within the Vidra. Once he pierces her heart, the remaining yang energy will be transferred to the Vidra. She will die, and Unzi will be free to leave. But Unzi hesitates. He doesn't want to move forward yet. Before doing anything, he asks if the tree was the temple's caretaker. The tree answers that the caretaker was the first to be deceived by the goddess. She used him to kill people. Don't believe me? Open the coffin and see for yourself, it says, claiming the caretaker's body is inside. Then open it for me, Unzi says. I'm just a tree, Banyan replies. But Unzi's eyes already show deep suspicion. To earn his trust, the tree of punishment recounts the goddess's disappearance. But Unzi remembers the zombie's warning. Do not trust the master. He says he now understands why the caretaker killed the goddess's disciples. Banyan replies, I know you're suspicious, but I never wanted to hurt you. Yet Yuenzi knows one of Banyan's powers is creating illusions, like the well girl, for instance. It was all an illusion. Now, with the power of the demon-slaying Vajra, Yuenzi can see through deception and lies. You bitch, you lure people in with that sob story and then kill them. You think I don't know? How about I kill you first? Yuenzi shouts and drives the Vajra into Banyan's trunk. The power of the sun bursts from the blade. Ah, you pest. Since you refused, then come here. Banyan screams. She attacks Yuenzi with her branches. The shoes do their job, and he dodges. Banyan keeps striking with fury, and Yuenzi's evasions are precise. It's like he's dancing. A beautiful choreography of battle. The legendary red shoes show their full glory, and during one of those dodges, Yuenzi finds an opening. It's now or never. He gathers power in his legs and, boom, launches himself like a rocket. He soars, gripping the Vajra tightly. With the power of a god, he impales the banyan tree mercilessly. Blazing fire rises as the cursed tree screams, being consumed by flames. Yuenzi tears through its branches with a single strike and raises the Vajra for the final blow. He drives the dagger into Banyan's forehead with more force than before. The burst of light is like a sun exploding in its peak fury. Banyan's horrific screams echo as she is consumed by fire. Yuenzi couldn't resist farming some aura. Admitted, no one saw that coming. Pretty badass, wasn't it? Leave it in the comments. Remove dancing shoes, he said, and the shoes vanished. He had almost exceeded their time limit. Luckily, it seemed the ordeal was finally over. The interface popped up with his rewards. He had officially become a dark wandering knight. The Vajra was still his, as were the shoes. I did it! I did it! He shouted with joy. A realm no one had ever conquered was taken today by a boy who bled for it. Truly thrilling. Yuenzi sat down and waited to return home. His wounds healed, and his pain faded away. He jumped up, feeling amazing. Except, it wasn't really him, but his spirit. False alarm though, you know that saying, when you're so happy it feels like you could fly? Yeah, that. The interfaces showed he was now level 1 and had gained several new abilities. Even though things were fine now, one question remained. Was the coffin empty? He still had some time left and was curious. Just to be sure, he summoned the shoes again. Approaching the coffin, he broke away the branches. When he opened the lid, the air left his lungs. Inside, the beautiful goddess of the three paths rested as if asleep. Her beauty was beyond compare, truly divine. He wondered if the banyan tree had told the truth, but perhaps that didn't matter anymore. After all, he had just desecrated a goddess's tomb. Trembling in fear, he muttered, "Oh my god, oh my god." He replaced the coffin lid but noticed something inside the goddess's mouth. Swallowing hard, he reached into the corpse and pulled out a soul crystal filled with immense spiritual energy. The interface explained it had been purified by the goddess and could be consumed. Without thinking twice, Yuenzi swallowed it. The boy literally transcended, almost turned into the watchman. Power surged through him. "I can handle 10 of them. Bring it on," Yuenzi shouted. He was unbelievably strong now. Composing himself, he bowed and thanked the goddess of the three paths. Closing her coffin, the countdown to return home began. All he had to do was wait. But this story wasn't done. It was twist per minute mode. As he turned his back, a hand emerged from the coffin. Yes, it was her. A chilling dark aura filled the room as the goddess rose from the dead. She only moved her eyes, looking straight at him, and Yuenzi froze. When she smiled at him, he panicked completely. 5 seconds before teleportation, she said, "I will find you." 3, 2, 1, everything went black. Yuenzi traveled through dimensions and in moments was back in his bedroom. Sitting on his bed, he couldn't stop thinking about the goddess, until the shoes started tap dancing and he yelled, "Stop, stop." In the living room, his cousin asked why he had locked his bedroom door. She called him repeatedly, but he didn't answer. Yuenzi just hugged his cousin respectfully, right in the middle, saying he missed her, and gave her a few pinches. At the Society of the Five Elements, Masterly asked Guanya if Yuenzi had given any response. She said she'd called him 6 times. Nothing. Everything was possible, but they had to wait. "Not like it'll make a difference," Wang said. "The odds of Yuenzi surviving the tunnel are almost 0, and, stop jinxing it," the others shouted. Guanya was desperate for him to survive. They were supposed to become co-workers, but if there was no news by the end of the day, there'd be no hope left. The master only asked to be informed if anything changed. Then the phone rang. It was Yuenzi. Guanya went wild, and Masterly told her to put it on speaker. "Primordial Night," she said sweetly. "Guanya, I completed the challenge," Yuenzi said, leaving everyone speechless when he added that he'd done it outside the temple. "It's a miracle," Agent Lee cheered. It was a huge achievement. No knight had ever done such a thing. Now, with a guide available, new wandering knights could be trained. They might even hold a full council of the Alliance with all leaders present. "How did you do it?" Guanya asked, amazed. Full of swagger, he replied. Anyone with legs can run. Lee ordered him to come immediately. Agent Wang admitted that Yunzi really wasn't a normal guy. You picked a monster, boss, he said, in a good way. A monster called a genius, Lee replied. In his office, Lee wrote to the Centurion, his superior. Barely had he sent the message when the phone rang. I hope you can explain this, Lee Dongza, the Centurion said. Lee explained. No joke. I just spoke to the kid. We don't have the guide yet because he's compiling the information. The Centurion said it was a pleasant surprise and that Yunzi would be a great asset to their guild. Moreover, Master Lee would be nominated to the higher council. He only asked to keep it secret since the rival guild, the Tai sect, had nearly wiped out their knights. Centurion Fu said not to worry, the Tai sect wouldn't want another wandering knight anyway, and told Lee to add more funds. What do you mean? Lee asked. Fu replied that money only accelerated progress. He wasn't trying to buy anyone. He asked Yunzi to prepare a tutorial as soon as possible. In the company chat, no one believed Yunzi had pulled it off. But when the message announcing his victory came, the whole place went insane. It was worse than the Langham Place chat. Even the Tai sect leader was irritated since even they, the so-called elites, hadn't managed it. By late afternoon, Yunzi arrived at headquarters cheerful. Well, looks like the little puppy turned into a wolf, Guanya said and invited him for a reward hug. Come here, kitty. I'm going to squeeze you tight, she said. But Yunzi committed blasphemy. He refused, probably afraid she'd feel something. Lower theories. The lovely Guanya just laughed, and they went to Lee's office. There, Master Lee said, I was worried someone might kidnap you on the way here, my wandering knight. The boy's fame was made. He asked for a Coke, and Guanya went to get it. While pouring wine, Master Lee said he wanted Yunzi to write a full report. But first, he asked if anything useful was found on the Goddess Mountain. Wang arrived and offered to help. An hour later, Yunzi told them about his experience, but omitted any mention of the shoes and the goddess's exclusive reward. Master Lee praised his demon-slaying Vajra, noting that every reward from the spiritual realm was unique. Since Yunzi had destroyed the banyan tree, the dungeon's difficulty would drop drastically. Guanya noted that the difficulty increased every time someone died there. A tutorial was just a reference, and details varied per run. Wang Tai argued it wouldn't drop because the shoes were still there, though he didn't know they now belonged to Yunzi. So he asked, those rewards you mentioned aren't rank S. Are you hiding something else? Yunzi just told him to relax. Come to think of it, there was a stone coffin in the tree, he said. Finally, he revealed that the goddess of the three paths had awakened from her slumber. What? Master Lee exclaimed, pacing back and forth. Either the goddess would raise the dungeon's level or create a new one. Yunzi said the mummy goddess smiled at him, and the idea of her haunting him was driving him crazy. Then Guanya asked, was she really that beautiful? Yunzi answered, more beautiful than you. Wang Tai added, and extremely valuable for research. Guanya wasn't amused. Why don't you both go to hell? Huh, she snapped. Meanwhile, far away, Elder Son received the news. He was astonished and ordered no one to leak it, but his butler said it was already too late. They already had a full account of the adventure, but that wasn't even the biggest bombshell. My lord, the ancestral wanderer of the day has returned from the dead, the butler said. Elder Son immediately called an emergency meeting. At the association, Yunzi read about a special knight's mark, the mark of the moon, the same one he had on his forehead. He decided to keep that to himself. He asked Guanya about the goddess's temple since his research confirmed it truly existed. She said it was a blend of illusion and reality, like a mirror. Relieved, he muttered, stay right where you are, you weird goddess. Oh, already scared? Didn't you say she was prettier than me? She teased. Master Lee then called her over. A white tiger guard had been killed, and Yunzi was dismissed for the day. One of the guild leaders showed up at the meeting that was taking place, assessing the fall of their greatest threat, and he knew that the mark of the moon had passed on to someone else, our protagonist. Speaking of him, when Yunzi arrives at school, he greets his classmates. They're talking about how the cute girl in their class, Su Yingying, is seeing some sugar daddy who's paying for everything for her. As he walks away, Yunzi isn't even surprised. Even the class cutie got corrupted. Ah, what a decadent society. What kind of country is this? He says.